My name is Yuri from Biocatch, and our mission is to improve user experience in online and mobile banking by reducing and eliminating some of the high-friction security controls that have been piled up on the users over the years. And as we know, in order to combat fraud, we now have in the industry more and more security controls, secret questions, out-of-band messages, knowledge-based authentication questions. They are disrupting the user experience. Fraudsters know how to bypass them. And the point is that with something that I'm going to show, which is called cognitive biometrics, we can get all of that friction go away while still securing the session. So essentially, cognitive biometrics is a technology that is now being used by banks in the US, in the UK, in Brazil, and in other countries of the world in order to fight fraud without the friction cost. Let me actually show you an iPad demonstration. What I'm doing now, there's a lot of things on the screen. Just try to focus on my swipe motion. I'm kind of swiping the device several times just for you to see how consistent I am in my motion. Biocatch looks at the way you hold the device and the way you interact inside the application. This can also simulate, for example, someone operating an online banking application and then moving the mouse and clicking on a button. Now, this is when I just move like this. Now I'm going to show you something interesting, a very core piece of the technology, which is called invisible challenges. I'm going to clear the drawings, and I'm going to do it again. So again, I'm just like moving, think about swiping the device. And now you can see that something is strange because some of my lines went a little bit downwards and some of my lines went a little bit upwards. I actually responded to something called an invisible challenge. This is something that Biocatch injected into my motion. So I kind of thought that I was moving in a straight line, but in fact I was a little bit deflected. The blue lines is when I was deflected upwards, so I adjusted by going a little bit downwards. The red is when I was deflected a little bit downwards, so I adjusted by going upwards. Now, it's a very small effect, and the brain is very much focused on the task of just moving. I don't even feel it. You can go to the booth, the Biocatch booth, and test it for yourself and see. So essentially, the Biocatch technology looks at the way the user is interacting, responding spontaneously inside the online banking or mobile banking application. Now, I want to show you that the way I actually interacted and responded is also very unique, not just consistent. Let me show you some more people. So I'm going to show you Shani. She's our QA manager. Now, she did a lot of, sort of motions in several directions. Let me actually show you, the same sort of direction. What you can see is when she responded, she actually had many small corrections at the end of her movement. She's very meticulous. She wanted to be exactly on target. She's a QA person. So that's the way she actually moves and responds to the same sort of challenge. The second thing that you will see with Shani, look at the touchdown on the left-hand side. That's when she actually does the swipe motion. This is before and after she touches the device. You can see that the device doesn't really change position. The blue, red, and green is the accelerometer data. But now let me show you another person. His name is Alon. He's our chief iOS developer. And the first thing that you will notice about Alon, let's again look at his motions, very straight lines. He's very, he has very sharp corrections at the end. Also look at the way he holds the device. When he's actually holding the device and he's doing a swipe motion, he's almost thumping the device. He's actually hitting the device. And you can see the spike in the blue data. That's the way he holds the device, and when he swipes, it can show. The other thing is that he has a shaky hand, so even before he touches the device, you can see that the device is more shaky. The bottom line is that by looking and observing what the user is doing naturally inside the online banking or mobile banking application, we can establish a baseline and then see if anything strange is happening. So now let me show you how we actually catch a fraudster. This is from a real bank. It's not a demo or anything. It's actually one of the banks in the US, a top 50 bank. You see a transaction that happened in January 11th. And this was a very suspect transaction because previously every single transaction happened from the US. But you can see that this one came from the Czech Republic. So this should trigger some alarm bells, right? But let's actually see what the user was doing. I'm going to show you some of the cognitive choices done by the user. We're collecting a lot of things that are cognitive choices, which means the user has several choices and they kind of select something that is very consistent. Let's look at, for example, the way they move between fields. Some people move with a tab between fields. Some people use the mouse. This user always uses the mouse to move between fields. And he did it again in this session from the Czech Republic. Then he clicks to submit. He never uses enter to submit. And he did it again. And he uses keypad, never numpad, to enter numeric information such as the amount. everything that the user was doing from the Czech Republic was very consistent. And in fact, these are some of the parameters. If we look at like all of the things that we can measure, in all of the predictors and all of the biometric sort of tests that we had, this user looked similar to the regular behavior. This is the reduced friction point, because now, if you know as the bank that it is the same user as before, yes, they may come from a new device, maybe they're doing something suspicious, but it is the same user. You don't have to chase them, you don't have to call them, no secret questions, no out-of-band messages. You can reduce the friction and stop fraud at the same time. So let's actually see a fraud transaction. This is a fraud case. You can see that the user here, a lot of red flags. Now, the user typically uses keypad to enter numeric information. You can see that in this case, it was a money transfer. They didn't use the keypad. They also didn't use the numpad to enter the amount. What they actually used was paste information. They pasted a lot of data, including the amount itself. The user never pasted anything before. So from analyzing the cognitive choices, clearly it's not in line with the baseline. Now let me show you what the user did in like several sessions. You have 3 sessions here. These are the sessions that you see, different sessions that you see here. They're very similar. With your eyes you can pick it up. We have machine learning for that. But they don't look at all like this suspect transaction. This is like the fraudster moving, and you can see that the fraudster has completely different behavior. So the technology establishes a baseline without the user having to do anything. They just normally operate the online and mobile banking. It's a biometric sort of control. It creates a baseline, and if there is something like a fraudster operating in the account, we can give an alert. But if it's the same user, even if the user is doing something suspicious and strange, you don't have to create additional friction. So Biocatch is a cognitive biometric technology that has less friction and less fraud. I welcome you to the booth, and you can test it for yourself. Thank you very much.